National Day. As Rick Debate said in the court today, he is completely steadfast in his innocence and dedicated to proving his innocence.
At 10:16 on the morning of December 23, 2015, Connecticut State Police would respond to a security alarm and 911 call stemming from a home in an upscale area on Birchview Drive. Inside, they would find homeowner Rick Debate zip-tied to a metal chair with blood on the floor nearby, and his wife, Connie, dead on the basement floor, and perhaps most alarming for responders, Rick had moaned out to them saying that the person responsible was, quote, still in the house. The Debates were a popular and well-liked family. Rick worked as a computer network administrator, and Connie was a successful pharmaceutical sales rep. They had 2 young sons, aged 9 and 6. And even after having been married for well over a decade, they still had a romance that friends of the couple envied. They appeared to have a great life and a perfect marriage. But the events on that December morning would cast light on what was really happening in the lives of Connie and Rick Debate, shocking everyone that knew them. The morning started out like any other. Connie's iPhone shows activity beginning shortly after 7 a.m. She's on Facebook and takes a phone call. Rick is already up by this time, getting ready for work and getting the boys ready for school. Connie had plans of going to the gym for spin class, and Rick would take the boys to the bus stop and then head to work like usual. Rick would tell police he put the boys on the bus at 8:10 in the morning, and he went back into the house to put on his work shirt, and he told Connie goodbye as she was looking for her spin shoes. Now, he claimed he saw her back out of the garage as he left, and he initially told police he left for work at 8:10. Now, this is where things take a turn from normal to unusual. Rick would say on his way to work he realized he forgot his laptop and turned around to go get it. And at the same time, he received alerts on his phone about the home security system, which he and Connie were inconsistent with their use of it, so he figured he would investigate that when he arrived home. So he pulled over to the side of the road and sent an email to his boss, letting him know he'd be late because when the alarm system alerts, it triggers local police to send an officer out, so he'd need to meet with them at the home as well. When he arrived home, he heard a noise upstairs, which he assumed was from one of the cats, but he went upstairs anyway to check it out. Rick would soon be horrified to find a large masked intruder in his closet when he went into his room. The man was wearing camouflage and gloves and a mask. He said he heard his wife arrive and he yelled for her to run. Ultimately, the intruder shot his wife in front of him, and then he found a torch nearby and began burning Rick. In the struggle, Rick was stabbed with a box cutter repeatedly, but was able to turn the torch on the intruder, burning his face. He struggled up the stairs, hit the panic button, and was able to drag himself to his phone in the kitchen and call 911. Now, this was the first of many versions of events Rick Debate told that morning. Most importantly, this is the version he gave police while he was still on the kitchen floor right after everything happened, so his memory should be fresh. Unfortunately for Rick, things would look suspicious immediately. Firstly noted, he was able to get himself upstairs and to the kitchen while attached to the chair, yet police couldn't help but notice that he laid on the kitchen floor as if he was unable to move for 14 minutes after the police had already arrived. This is not consistent with someone who is concerned for their wife who's just been shot. A few moments later, the next red flag, in my opinion the biggest. The canine unit was brought to the home to pick up the scent of an unknown man. Of the 3 dogs, 2 of them could not find a scent of anyone unknown. The 3rd dog, Rocky, he tracked a scent and alerted straight to Rick, not once, but twice. Now, these dogs are highly trained. If there was another man in that home, they certainly would have alerted as such. Rick was found to be zip-tied to a metal chair. However, at this time, only his left wrist was zip-tied. It's also worth noting that he was right-handed. In addition, he had a zip tie around his neck, but it was not tight enough to affect his breathing. Debate was taken to a nearby hospital, and police would meet with him again for more questions. He would describe the intruder as 6 feet tall, stocky, with a deep voice like actor Vin Diesel. Keep in mind, this discussion is less than 2 hours after his 911 call, yet police would note he did not have tears in his eyes the entire 6 hours that they spoke to him. Hospital staff would confirm that all of his injuries were superficial and in places on his body that could have been self-inflicted. This is also when his story begins to change. As police ask more questions, he says he left for work, this time sometime between 8:10 and 8:30. And when asked if he set the alarm, he gives a few answers, first saying yes, then a couple of times, and then said he couldn't remember. Finally, he said he tried to when he was parked on the side of the road sending emails, but he, quote, wasn't even at the house. He told police he did arrive back home between 8:45 and 9 o'clock that morning. He described hearing what he thought was the cat, went upstairs to find an intruder in the home, who immediately began, quote, manhandling Rick and throwing him around. In this version of events, he says the intruder asked for his wallet, credit cards, and PIN numbers, which he gave him. He would tell police that the intruder told him if he didn't give what he wanted, that he would wait until Rick's family came home. Another important note is Rick claims the whole time he was upstairs in the closet with the intruder was only 1 minute. He said he heard Connie arrive home and yelled to her to run. He said the intruder yelled at him and pushed him down the stairs as they both raced towards Connie. He would later say he fell down the stairs and then say he tripped down the stairs. Rick said he could hear that Connie had run to the basement, but the intruder beat Rick down to her. So Rick would tell police that when he finally stumbled down there, he followed the intruder to the back part of the basement where Connie was. He claims he could hear Connie say, quote, I have a gun, get out of the house. He said he heard a shot and saw her go down and that he couldn't hear for 5 minutes. He later said there was a struggle between Connie and the intruder, and that the intruder was inches away from Connie, as Rick was about 10 feet from them. He said he heard another shot, and then the intruder, quote, threw the gun down or held it or kept it. He told police the intruder did, quote, some pressure point thing to tie him to the chair. But he would later say the intruder dragged him in a headlock to the chair and, quote, must have grabbed Rick's own toolbox, which was conveniently nearby, to get zip ties and zip tie him to the chair. In Rick's words, the intruder began, quote, randomly poking him with a box cutter. He said the intruder grabbed a blowtorch nearby and began torching some papers before Rick was able to get the torch and burn the mask of the intruder, causing him to flee the home. He then was able to free his ankle, and he said he, quote, walked up the stairs, crawled, whatever, and then was able to call 911. Now, he claimed the whole time that he was tied to the chair was only 30 seconds. Towards the end of the interview, he would change details again, noting that he didn't see Connie backing out of the driveway and that the intruder had a knife this time. He would change details about what happened in the basement, saying it was so dark he couldn't see anything down there. He would say he was 5 minutes from the home whenever he pulled over to send the email, and then finally that the more that he talked, the less he remembered. Now, if suspicions around Rick weren't enough, they certainly were when he was asked about family dynamics. He would say they had been arguing a bit and that Connie was depressed. He would also drop a bombshell when he openly told police he had impregnated a longtime friend of his. His story changes here too. Initially, he said Connie wanted another child and couldn't conceive. So the three of them agreed to co-parent a baby and that it was mostly Connie's idea. Now, everyone that knew Connie would say that there was absolutely no way she would ever be okay with that. Rick would then change up, saying it was unplanned and Connie didn't know about it. When interviewed, his mistress would say Rick had told her that his marriage was over and they were getting a divorce. All forensic evidence obtained from the phone records proved that he was telling her they were getting a divorce and he was moving out of his stuff. Yet evidence showed between he and Connie, they were trying to work on things despite issues Connie had with Rick. There were 2 notes found on her phone. One was a list of Rick's good qualities, followed by a very long list titled Reasons I Want a Divorce, which upon reading, it was tragic. She notes that he lies, he's not good with the kids, he takes money that's not his, doesn't treat her well, there's no trust, etc. And if Rick doesn't already sound like a piece of garbage, his behavior gets worse. Police noted he didn't ask about Connie once while he was being questioned. And while at family gatherings on the holidays shortly after her death, friends and family noticed how he never mentioned how he missed her, only telling them that he didn't do it. He also got rid of his security system, which frankly doesn't sound like someone who just lost their wife to a home invasion. It would be a while before police could arrest Rick, They had to comb through tons of forensic evidence from phones, tablets, their security system, and then what became the most talked about piece of evidence, Connie's Fitbit. When the data from all these devices was put together, it became too obvious who the killer was and why they killed Connie. On April 14, 2017, Rick would be arrested and charged with Connie's murder, tampering with evidence, and providing false statements. The prosecution would show that Rick had lied about the most crucial aspects of what happened that morning. Evidence would show that the IP address used to send the email to his boss was the one at his house, proving that he was not on the side of the road whenever he sent that email. And all the times the security system was activated and deactivated that morning were from the same home IP address. The same was true for internet activity on Rick's tablet during that morning. Now, the biggest nail in the coffin for Rick was data from Connie's Fitbit. It showed that she was active up until 10:17 that morning, a full hour after Rick claimed that she was killed. It logged a distance of over 1,000 feet. This suggests that she didn't come home, run straight to the basement where she was immediately killed. Now, his bail would be set at $1 million, despite prosecution asking for a $5 million bail. Because he had a wealthy family, it wouldn't be hard for them to come up with it. However, they would stay at the $1 million, and his trial would be delayed for several years, all the while he would be free during that time in the community of Ellington. After multiple delays, he would be found guilty on May 10, 2022, and sentenced to 65 years. Nothing can bring back Connie, but locking up this selfish monster is the next best thing. It's heartbreaking that the mother was stolen from her kids and community that loved her so much. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.